Good evening, everyone. How are you doing?
Good, and yourself?
I'm fine.
Hello.
Hi.
I apologize if anyone's scared of chickens, but I've got a very scary chicken over my shoulder here.
Well, as long as it can't get through our virtual, filters and attack, it's okay.
Okay.
Or start talking and say, don't worry, I'm not a chicken. I'm here.
Good evening.
Hello, good evening.
Hey, Sheldon.
Hey, how are you? Lots of snow.
That's for sure.
It's like it's melting here.
Was the entire community invited?
Good evening, everyone. This is Ebenezer Smith. I am the District Manager of Community Board 12 Manhattan. Welcome to this meeting, the presentation from the Inwood Library by HPD. I just want to ask if every presenter from HPD is in now. at this time before we start the meeting. Do you need anything besides the presentation that you sent this afternoon? Who's going to be leading from HPD?
Hi, good evening. This is Vianda. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
I think we're checking, just double checking to see if everyone is here from the presentation team.
Looks like it's me.
Yes, so everyone is here from the presentation team. Thank you. I will, once we're ready, I will kick off the meeting.
Okay, Wayne Benjamin, the chair for the Land Use Committee, will be moderating this meeting tonight. On behalf of Community Board 12 Manhattan, I just want to say welcome to everyone. I'm here to introduce and facilitate it from the technical side. The presentation, you would like to share your screen, or you want me to do it for you? Please let me know, whatever is convenient for you.
I can share the screen. I think that might.
You can share the screen. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank you.
I'm gonna make sure. Yes. Okay. I will give you the promotion that you need in order to do that. Okay.
Perfect.
So thank you once again on behalf of Community Board 12. Welcome to this meeting. Without further ado, Mr. Wayne Benjamin, Chair of the Land Use Committee. Wayne.
Actually, Ebenezer, do you know if Eleazar is joining us? He said he was earlier today.
Yes, I just spoke with him a few minutes ago, and he said that he's going to be joining us as well, but I haven't seen him yet. But he's going to be with us tonight, yes.
Okay, so should I begin in any event?
Yes.
Okay, great. So good evening, everyone. My name is Wayne Benjamin, and I chair land use for Manhattan Community Board 12. This is a public information meeting on the Inwood Library mixed-use development project. The Land Use Committee has spoken with HPD and some members of the team about the project, but not in the last year or so. I think the last time we discussed it was in 2019. There was no update in 2020, so it has been a while. The team consists of a couple of organizations and people that I know from my previous life and have worked with over the years, and a few that are new. So Alembic Community Development and Cloth Community League of the Heights are organizations that when I served as Director of Residential Development for Harlem CDC, I worked with on a number of affordable housing and community development projects. But the team also includes Children's Village and Ranger Properties and Housing Workshop, which I think are new to the team, or at least new to the team since there was any discussion with the Land Use Committee about it. So, with that, I will turn the floor or the screen, as the case may be, over to the development team to make introductions and to walk us through. I would just share a comment with everyone that was emailed to me about a week ago, and that was the extent to which in the last decade or so, there has been very little new development or affordable housing development in Washington Heights and Inwood. And that is a theme that Councilmember Rodriguez has often brought up over the years, and there are a number of factors that contribute to that. Those of you who are my age or maybe a little older will remember how in Central Harlem and in East Harlem there was this tremendous amount of city-owned vacant property that, of course, gave a resource for new development to occur. Washington Heights and Inwood was fortunately spared the level of disinvestment and vacancy that other neighborhoods in Manhattan and throughout the city saw. But at the same time, it did not have those assets, those vacant lots owned by the city, in order to fuel new development. So that's something to think about, how in this age when we don't have that resource of vacant city-owned properties, do we foster new development and affordable housing development? But with that, as I said, once again, I'm going to turn the floor over to the development team. I could say, please introduce yourself and your team members and walk us through the presentation.
Okay. So I will get started. Good evening, Community Board 12 and the larger community. My name is Vianda Simmons, and I'm the Director of the Manhattan Planning Division at HPD. And I'm joined by my colleague, James Hull, Manhattan Planner at HPD, members of the New York Public Library, Department of Education, and our development partners. I want to thank Community Board 12 leadership for allowing us to present tonight, for hosting this meeting, and for collaborating with us so that we can bring this great project to the public's attention. So I'm excited about this opportunity to provide updates about a new project called the Eliza. The Eliza will be a new 14-story building that will contain approximately 174 rental apartments for extremely low and low-income residents. Of the 174 apartments, 70 will be permanently affordable due to mandatory inclusionary housing, otherwise known as MIH. Additionally, the new building will include a new state-of-the-art library, a Department of Education operated UPK classrooms, and an array of wonderful community services provided and operated by our nonprofit partners, which includes STEM, which stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math, and which is called STEM, and a cultural center. The development team was selected through an RFP process. An RFP, the acronym stands for Request for Proposal. And as Mr. Benjamin indicated earlier, the larger development team also consists of Ranger Properties, Alembic Community Development, the Community League of the Heights, Cloth, and the Children's Village, and Housing Workshop. So this project received public approvals in 2018 and is currently in closing stages. The land use actions that facilitated the new development included a rezoning, MIH, and disposition of city-owned land. So as Mr. Benjamin indicated, it's been a while since updates were presented to the community board. So we're really happy again to be at this stage to give you updates and solicit your feedback and suggestions. So in terms of the agenda, we have the introductions, which were already provided. We'll go next into project updates, next steps, and then we will open the floor to questions and answers. So I will now turn over the presentation to Jeremy, who is the president and CEO of Children's Village.
Good evening, Chair Benjamin and Manhattan Community Board 12. Thank you for this opportunity. I am Jeremy Kahumban, the president and the CEO of the Children's Village, and I am honored to join Cloth, the Community League of the Heights, an organization with deep community roots in Washington Heights and Inwood, and we are the nonprofit partners of this project. Also joining us today is Sheldon Stein, the CEO of Ranger Properties and a personal friend of mine for over 25 years. We also have Alembic Community Development, an organization that's well known in our community. They helped us co-develop the Home for Harlem Dowling, located at 127th Street and Adam Clayton Powell. Some of you may have seen that building. Also with us today is Ellen Seidman, the founder and manager of the Housing Workshop. Together, we responded to the RFP and we were honored to be selected. We bring to you over 200 years of experience and recognized excellence in human services, community development, and the provision of affordable, beautiful housing with construction in Hamilton Heights, Washington Heights, Inwood, and Yonkers, and across the state of New York. Thank you for this opportunity.
Vianda, if you're speaking, you're on mute.
Very sorry. As mentioned earlier, in terms of what's contained in the building, we have 174 affordable rental units, a mix of studios, 1, 2, 3 bedroom apartments. We have a new state-of-the-art library space. We have the ACT Center, which stands for Activities, Cultural, and Training Center, universal pre-K 3 classrooms, and a Department of Education playground, operated playground, and New York City's first STEM center, which includes a robotics center and many other workspace that's focused on community education and learning. Next slide. I will now turn the presentation over to our architects.
Hello, my name's Chris Fogarty. I'm a partner at Fogarty Finger Architects. I'm very happy to share with you our new design for the Eliza residential building and the new Inwood Public Library. We've worked very closely with Andrew Berman Architects, who designed the library, and Andrew will come and talk to you later about that. The building is built to Enterprise Green Communities standard, so it's a green building. It's 14 stories high, and it sets back on the 3rd floor and on the 11th floor. This allows us to break up the massing into 3 elements. There's a 2-story base, which you can see in this image, which is this kind of civic presence on Broadway. And it has double height windows looking into the library. It also contains the pre-K and the community center. And then there's 2 sliding rectangular volumes that are clad in a light gray beige brick with a double height window, and then fluted precast stone panels next to those windows to create this sort of great civic building here in Inwood. And then next slide, please. Now, as I think we mentioned earlier, there's really 4 buildings in one here. There's the library, the Eliza, the community center, and the pre-K. All the entries off Broadway, and each has its own defined entrance with a canopy and glass doors and lots of light. Each and every part of the project is fully handicapped accessible, and each distinct part has its own elevator and ADA access. So this is a fully accessible building. If we start on the right, you can see the New York Public Library entrance is furthest east. And that is to allow the library to stand alone from the other functions of the building on Broadway and really kind of define itself as the important base of your neighborhood. To the west, we then have the Eliza Lobby, which is, again, nice large lobby with elevators that go up to the 12 residential floors above. On the top, and there's units on each floor. And then on the top floor, we have a lounge and a gym and a laundry for the tenants. And then on top of that, we have a completely accessible roof. Almost the entire building's roof is accessible with picnic areas, vegetable gardens, areas to hang out. And then there's a solar panel shading system that provides energy for the building and also provides shade up there. So that's another exciting feature. Next to the Eliza entrance, you can see is the ACTS entrance. That's the community center, and that's about 11,000 square feet of community center. And because the way the site, if you probably all know, is that it's on the side of a hill and it kind of comes down from Broadway. So what happens is, even though you go downstairs to the lower level for the community center, that community center has large windows with natural light flooding into it as well. So we take advantage of the site there. And then finally, the last piece of the entry is to the pre-K, and this is on the 2nd floor. And this is about 7,000 square feet. It has 3 large classrooms, all the associated spaces for staff and for parents to come, as well as a 1,300 square foot play area dedicated to the pre-K. So it's an incredibly complex jigsaw of pieces. We're really excited to be part of it. And with that, I'm going to hand it back to our next speaker.
Thanks, Chris. So as Vianda mentioned, The residential component of this project includes approximately 174 units of 100% affordable housing. This project is being financed through HPD's extremely low and low income affordability, or ELA term sheet. Of the 174 units, 70 of them are permanently affordable through the mandatory inclusionary housing program. All units will be between 0 and 60% of area median income. 30% of the units are family size, so that's 2-bedroom or larger. And then 16% of units are for the formerly homeless. So the next question we get is, so what's the rent if we're talking about 30% of AMI? So there, in this table here, there's a bit of a chart with the first column showing the AMI tier, the area median income tier. The next column showing the qualifying income range for a family size between 1 and 4 persons. And in the third column, the monthly rent. So for a family of 1 earning 30% of the AMI, earning about $15,806 a year, the monthly rent would be $397 a month. For a family of 4 at this income tier, they're earning approximately $35,000 a year. I'm sorry, $35,457 a year. Their monthly rent would be around $683 a month. And then just going up to, at the 60% of AMI tier, for a single person earning $33,360 a year, the monthly rent would be around $909 a month. And for a family of 4 in this 60% of AMI tier, earning around $70,950 a year, the rent would be around $1,570 a month. So with that, I'll turn it over to the New York Public Library.
All right, well, thank you very much. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. My name is Amr Kot, and I'm here on behalf of the NYPL team, and want to thank CB12 once again for hosting this very important meeting tonight. We are really excited to be a part of this great project and to play a role where we get to replace the current Inwood Library with a brand new state-of-the-art branch to better serve the community's needs. Tonight, I'm joined by Library Manager at the Inwood branch, Danita Nichols, and our Director of Capital and Real Estate Initiatives, Dana Sunshine. With that, I want to turn it over to Andrew Berman. He is the architect of the new library. He's going to be talking about the branch's design, function, spaces. And just wanted to add that we really couldn't be happier to have Andrew on board for this project. We've worked with him and his firm previously on the Van Cortlandt, Stapleton, and Washington Heights libraries, and all of those branches had amazing outcomes. So without further ado, I'll pass it to Andrew.
Thank you, Amr. We are very, very pleased to be working with the New York Public Library, of course, the community, and with the development team. We've been working since the project inception to create what we expect to be a very accessible, generous, bright, and comfortable new library for Inwood. The library is going to have 120 feet of windows facing Broadway, as you can see here, most of the facade. 85 feet of those windows and the whole center of the facade will be double height. The library is going to have its own dedicated entry at the street level, which is on the left of this image. The entry to the library is separate from the entries to the apartments and the community facilities by the full width of the library. So there's going to be a complete sense of this facade really belonging to the library. The library, of course, shares a building with these other facilities, but it's important to understand that it's completely separate from these facilities in terms of its identity, in terms of security, in terms of access and acoustics. Next slide, please. Now, this is a view from the interior of the library, looking towards the back. There is a double height space, as you can see here. And Towards the rear is the teen area and a children's room and children's area. The teens and the children have their own windows overlooking the athletic fields to the south. Upstairs, there's another floor. It has more collection, more rooms, more seating. The library, the new library is going to have improved sight lines in comparison to the existing library. As I mentioned before, there are going to be separate areas for adults, teens, and children. All the areas are surrounded by books. Books weave their way through the entire library. There are going to be 3 private co-working study rooms throughout the library and a designated room for storytelling in the children's area. There are going to be 3 service points at the library. On the left, you can see the first reception desk. There's another one at the children's area, and then there's one upstairs. There are going to be 5 ADA, all gender, single occupant restrooms. There are going to be outlets throughout the library for charging and computers and Wi-Fi throughout the library as well. Next slide, please. And on the second floor, again, there will be a wide range of seating opportunities. You can see a large skylight here that will flood the second floor with light. The second floor actually has windows to both the front to Broadway and to the rear, overlooking the athletic fields. Also on the second floor is a community room and a separate classroom. Each of these rooms is going to be equipped with a hearing loop to provide assisted listening, as will the children's storytelling room. The new library is going to provide more resources and choice for library patrons and for the neighborhood. It will provide improved space and operations for the library staff. And we hope that some of these features will be a very generous, comfortable, flexible, and warm civic space for the New York Public Library to operate its ambitious and varied programming for the neighborhood. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Andrew. Really appreciate that.
Thank you.
So I also want to talk to everybody about the temporary space. So we've come to the community about this project in the past, obviously, as far back as 2018, 2019 as well. And one of the things that we had talked about was that when this location would close during construction, we would open up a temporary space. Now, the temporary space is obviously important for circulation, but at that time, before the pandemic, it was also, we were hoping it would play a role in programs, which we had also been in touch with a lot of our partners about. So if any community partners are on the chat right now on the Zoom, we thank you for offering to do that. These are things like computer classes, adult literacy, ESOL, and so on. We had also talked about bookmobiles that would help to plug in and supplement service in different areas too. Now, obviously, the world has changed quite a bit. And currently, due to the pandemic, we only have 53 locations. 53 out of our 92 are open right now. And that's for grab and go service. And what that means is basically our patrons are able to place holds and then come to the branch and pick up their orders in a very small space of the library. Despite these challenges, we did want to make sure that we kept our promises to your community and still were able to open a temporary space, which will be one of our grab and go locations. So I'm happy to announce that we are going to be doing that. If we go to the next slide, please. And that temporary space is going to be located at 4857 Broadway. It's opening on Friday, February 25th. And like I said, right now, we're doing grab and go. That's the max service we have system-wide. But as things improve, we look forward to being able to provide additional services at this location, just like any other location. So talking about computer access, internet access, and hopefully down the road, we'll get back in touch with those partners who were kind enough to be prepared to host some of our programming once again. So in the meantime, NYPL does have a very robust offering of remote services right now. There's a lot of different things that we're providing to patrons, both at research and branch libraries. One of them is shelf help, where folks who maybe they don't have internet access, they can call and tell us what their interests are, and a branch manager will put together a package of books for them based on those interests. We're offering a lot of remote classes and professional skill sets, one-on-one career coaching, and tutoring as well.
Thank you. Let me walk you through the ACT Center, Activities, Culture, and Training Center. We designed this community center to bring robust programming that would be suitable for children, teenagers, young adults, and adults. We want programs that will draw on some of New York City's strongest nonprofits, including, of course, our partner, the New York Public Library, New York City First, CUNY, New York Presbyterian, and many others. The ACT Center will provide STEM programming, science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We will provide employment and career training, including a teaching kitchen for the Serve Safe certification, which is the bare minimum requirement that you need to achieve in order to work in the commercial food industry. We will have services for new immigrants, including ESL, English as a second language, computer literacy, urban farming, arts, music, and that's just to mention a few of the activities that we propose to host at the ACT Center. Could I move to the next slide, please? This is a rendering of our multi-purpose performance space. As you can see, it's got natural light, and we hope to bring a lot of our music and arts activities into this space. Next slide, please. This is a rendering of our teaching kitchen. Again, lots of natural light, a lot of space, and the opportunity to earn the Serve Safe certificate and the credential right here. Next slide, please. And this describes the STEM Center, where children and teens will have access to robotics and the full curriculum offered by NYC First. At the heart of our work is our conviction that children and families deserve to have the best. And it is our great confidence that we can give them the best. We can give them spaces that are beautiful. You've heard that throughout this presentation. We can give them education and experiences that ignite their passion and prepares them for success beyond so many of the dead-end jobs that too many of our people have been forced into. And we know that we can help them amplify their success and their voice so that they can lead others in their community into a better future than the one that many have been given. We do this work every day. We have the results and evidence to confirm our success, and we promise to bring you the same at the Eliza and at the ACT Center. Thank you for this opportunity.
So in terms of the project schedule, as mentioned earlier, public approvals were received in 2018. The financial closing is anticipated for Q2 of 2021. Construction commencement will begin shortly after the closing in Q2 of 2021. And construction completion will take approximately 26 months from closing. Next slide. So again, I want to thank Community Board 12 for allowing us to host this important presentation. And we would now like to open up the floor to the larger community for questions and to the Community Board.
Yeah, before we go to opening all of the questions, let me quickly ask, do we have anyone from the Community League of the Heights or Alembic as part of tonight's presentation?
Hi, Wayne. Yeah, this is Ingrid Gomez from Community League of the Heights. I'm not part of the presentation, but here to answer any questions on behalf of cloth.
Okay, I was just kind of curious as to the makeup, and I guess you can stop sharing the screen so I can see people now. I was just curious as to the makeup of the presentation in the prior visits to the community board. I'm pretty certain that, in addition to the public library and HPD, cloth and Alembic have played a pretty central role. So is there a reason why they're not participating in tonight's discussion?
The only, Viandra, the only reason why Yvonne is not here and participating is because she was hospitalized for a few weeks and she is recovering. So since Jeremy is part of the ACT Center with Community League, we asked Jeremy to do the presentation. Also in terms of timing also, so that we could present a very solid presentation and leave room for questions from the community.
Well, I mean, thank you for that additional information. I guess my point is there are some members of the team that, I personally and the board more generally are familiar with and have been familiar with, for years. So we're just kind of curious as to, the status of their role and participation. And with regard to the presentation, there are sort of three themes concerning which I have a couple of questions. I'm sure others do as well. One pertains to the residential, the other pertains to the library, and the third pertains to the architectural urban design approach. With regard to the residential, I'm curious as to how you arrived at the unit mix. I mean, specifically, you have significantly more one bedrooms than twos. You sort of have the same number of studios and twos, and you would think that in Washington Heights and Inwood or anywhere in Upper Manhattan, you'd have a greater demand for 2 bedrooms and even 3s. And I think there are only 8 3-bedroom apartments. So, talk to us about how you arrived at the unit mix. What makes, the heavy concentration on studios and 1 bedrooms appropriate for the community. And in terms of the affordability, I think it was, Community Board 12 championed or thought that the Ella program was a good fit. So it's good to see that, that's being used. But of the 30% of units that do not remain permanently affordable, the question is, what happens to them when, and, what does affordability look like for those units once they're no longer, under any program? With regard to the library, a question that's come up over the years is, what is the size of the new library compared to the size of the existing library? Is it bigger or is it smaller? So that's an easy question, to answer. With regard to the temporary library space, we understand that COVID really restricts what you can do now, but in the over 2-year period that construction will be ongoing, and we are sort of out of the worst part of COVID, is there sufficient space in the temporary library to provide adequate services to the community? And then with respect to architecture, urban design, which is something that we've also talked about over the years, I know that in a prior presentation, there were some comparisons to the existing buildings and discussion of how it compares contextually. But I wonder how, the design approach and particularly the color, was picked, because a gray brick building, the way the facade is articulated, feels a lot more institutional than it does residential. So how are you thinking about the design of the building in terms of the neighborhood within which it sits?
So thank you for your questions. Quite a bit of items to cover. I guess I will start off with the first one in terms of the unit mix. As mentioned, 30% of the units are family size. And I believe your question was, why not more family sizes based upon Community Board 12's request? Is that?
Well, I mean, it's not even based upon the request. If you look at the demographics of Washington Heights and Inwood, if you look at the demographics of CB 9, 10, 11, or 12, the demographics are pretty, similar. And so, 46 two-bedroom units out of 100 and how many? It seems less than one would anticipate. But I think more importantly, if there are 76, if I recall, one bedrooms and 44 or 46 studios, you have a heavy concentration on rather small units. Why is that?
So good question. Again, using the Ella term sheet, there are certain requirements in terms of the affordability mix. I know there was a real need to maximize the number of affordable units that we're able to provide to the community. And I do understand we do get requests from all the community boards that you mentioned for larger family size units. So a lot of the unit mix did go, or the composition of the unit mix did account for maximizing the number of affordable units that we're providing to the residents in Inwood.
But I guess the central question is, who is the market for the studios and ones?
Well, there are many residents who are able to afford these units, who are looking for studio bedrooms or one bedroom units. It may not be as high as the community is requesting, but there's always a market for one bedrooms and studios.
Yeah. Not to belabor the point, but I recall, in years past, HPD actually favored, when in its evaluation criteria for affordable housing RFPs, if at least 50% of the units were twos and threes. And it seems that's no longer a policy.
No, not under the Ella term sheet. It's not a policy.
And so in terms of the design of one bedroom apartments, some of the older buildings in the community have more generously sized one bedroom apartments, which allow for, sharing. There might be an alcove or an oversized living room that can be split. So how is the design approached, considering that you may still end up with, a poor match between a one bedroom and the household, but that's all that was available for them to rent at the time. So how is thinking about that built into the design?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great point. We do get those concerns often. Certainly, there's a new opportunity with the new administration to kind of make some amendments. Whether that will take place or not, I'm not sure. But, as our team, which is a planning team, we interface a lot with community members. We often bring back these concerns. So they're being heard, and there may be an opportunity for the design team to kind of revisit some of the sizes and really reconsider the community's requests for larger units. I don't know if any of the architects have any other thoughts, or any of the development team, but those are basically the considerations that are taken into account when developing new buildings. Again, we get these concerns and complaints all the time about the sizes, and the unit sizes are built to design HPD's design guidelines. And again, certainly this is a wonderful opportunity to really create new policy or demand a difference or a change moving forward.
And in terms of the units that will not be permanently affordable, what's the projected, I mean, will they go to market? Will they be rent stabilized? What happens to those units?
Good question. We have regulatory agreements. The minimum regulatory agreement for this development is 40 years, and the units will be rent stabilized. And after 40 years, we have an opportunity, HPD has an opportunity to renegotiate with the development teams to extend out that regulatory agreement to confirm that these units stay affordable. And certainly we have mission-based organizations who are affiliated with this development, and the likelihood of that extension of the regulatory agreement is higher than not.
So relative to the size of the new versus existing library?
Yes, happy to answer that question. So the size is about the same at approximately 20,000 square feet. The difference is that the layout is much more efficient and allows intentionally for more usable public space. Your question about programming and other services is, yeah, it's a challenging moment right now. We don't really know when we'd be able to reopen. We did try to move to a phase 2 back in November, and we had to revert back within just a couple of days, actually. But what it would look like is first we would have computer and internet access, and then we would move on. And as soon as it's deemed safe, we would start reintroducing programs. Now, if this is a period where, if we're reintroducing programs and the temp space is open and obviously the new library is not ready yet, yeah, there are some programs that we likely would have the space for, and some that are larger that would be challenging. And we would be really looking to some of our community partners in the neighborhood to see what they could host on site at their locations. And Danita, please feel free to jump in here if there's anything that I missed.
If I might add regarding the size, to underscore something that Amr just said, the new library is going to be significantly more efficiently laid out than the original library. And we had the opportunity to work with the full team from the project inception. So the library is very purpose-built, and the building, if you will, is built up and around the library. And while the square footage might be the same, the actual volume of the new library is significantly greater than what is the volume of the original library, in that we have double height spaces, a lot more light, a lot more volume, a lot more space with which to work.
So you're achieving an improved net to gross.
Absolutely.
Hi, Danita, you were going to add something? If so, you're muted. You're still muted.
I'm sorry. I opened my video and not my microphone. Yes, I was going to add something about the temporary. We did have a pre-pandemic plan and partnerships set up, and so with programming in the community. And we will be doing the same. I'm not sure. It says my connection is unstable. I hope I'm hearable. So that will be the next step when we know when safe, as safety allows. We are currently doing some of that kind of programming virtually with several community partners.
Okay, great. And I would say, going to the design questions, and I think all of these questions are to some extent not new. We discussed them in 2019 the last time. So, what is informing the architectural design and understanding that it's a mixed-use building? One of the questions then and now is why the residential part of that has, almost an institutional feel. It could be an office building or, some kind of a community facility building, and, the gray brick just kind of reinforces that. And there was lots of talk about, contextual design and not necessarily mimicking the old buildings because they're, decades apart, but there seems to have been very little actual change in the year or so that has transpired to address the discussions we had back then about how the building fits into or even addresses the community within which it sits.
I might try and answer that. We obviously are both a civic building and a residential building,
Exactly.
a landmark building, and we're trying to balance that out. We chose a brick that is blended. It's gray, beige, white, and you can manipulate the blend to soften it as much as you can. What we really didn't want was an industrial gray brick that just felt clinical and everything else. So it's and that brick is burnt in a kiln and it comes out different colors and you can mix it. So that was the idea, that it wouldn't be this kind of monolithic building. We tried to break up the massing. We split up the volumes as much as we can with the zoning and with the demands of trying to maximize. As Andrew mentioned, we have a huge double height space in the library that pushes things up. We have pre-K and everybody wants nice high ceilings. And so everywhere we were pushed on pressure to maximize the volumes, but we tried to cut it back as much as we can. We could have done a bigger envelope. We could have pushed up the setbacks. We could have pushed out dormers. We could have been more aggressive. We deliberately tried to keep the massing as simple as we could. I'm not allowed to talk about it, but of course it will be joined with other projects down the line and become part of its context over time. So we're leading the charge there. And I think we tried to get that balance, and maybe we've succeeded or maybe we haven't, but we did try very hard. We certainly looked a lot at the Inwood vernacular. It is definitely and that was obviously one of the reasons we came with a fully brick building on all the facades, all the way around the building, because it's part of it. Even though it's taller, it's going to be seen. And so we didn't want to do cheaper materials on the back facade or on the lot line. You'll notice that every facade is brick clad. And that was, again, a deliberate intent to make sure that we understood that Inwood is a brick community. And that was some of the things that we were looking at. We spent a lot of time looking at some of the Art Nouveau. There's some very interesting 1930s buildings that have a kind of vertical vernacular in them, and we took that in with the windows. We tried to install this kind of precast stone panels that had these fluted columns that responded to that. So I don't think we mimicked exactly an Inwood design, but we certainly were aware of it and thoughtful to it during the process.
I guess the logical follow-up question is, as I walk around Inwood, you're absolutely right. It is very much a neighborhood of brick buildings. But in terms of, the color or the palette, it's just not clear to me why one would pick anything in the gray family if you are responding to that neighborhood. It reminds me of the healthcare facility on 125th Street that one of the unions built. I think that's Perkins Eastman or Perkins Will. But it looks just like that, and it's the same brick. Maybe their brick is a little darker gray, but it's not clear why that expression is brought to Inwood.
I've been down we're doing another project a little bit further down. I think it's on Broadway, and I'm going to get my name wrong, but Norris, I think, and the residential buildings down there, or they certainly feel gray to me. I don't know if they were originally gray. They might have been a very light white, but I think I would agree if it was a clinical brick, if it was an industrial brick. I don't think we will have that feeling. That's certainly not what we were aiming for. And maybe the image we were showing, which is a kind of nighttime shot when I was talking, makes it look much darker because it's at night. But I think some of the other images where you see it in the day, you can see it's a much lighter color and has that variety that we were hoping to try and achieve.
Yeah, I mean, the image to me, I wasn't responding to the darkness. It was fairly light. I was responding to almost the uniform gray. You're speaking to variety, and it may be hard to tell from the rendering, but the rendering comes across as very monolithically gray.
You know what would have been really useful?
Beige or anything like that, but gray.
What we should have done tonight, which would have been really useful, is have a sample board that we could have put up and you could have seen the brick we were using. And I apologize for that. That would have been an easy way to have this discussion, and that's my mistake.
Right. Well, enough of me talking. I just want to acknowledge that our board chair, Eliza Bueno, has joined us. And Ebenezer Smith, our district manager, I believe, is going to help us navigate through the questions so that we can get to a broader discussion. So Ebenezer?
Thank you, Wayne, for acknowledging me. And thank you guys for the presentation. I'm sure that there's a lot of questions, and I have a few. So whenever it's my turn, Wayne.
Well, Ebenezer, would you like Eliezer to go first and then for you to go through the questions in the chat?
I'm fine, Eleazar. You want to say something, and then I take over for the questions.
Okay, Eliezer, the floor is yours.
Yeah, the composition, the building composition of the way that the apartments are split out. It's almost like hotel-like. It's just not many families involved in a community that has more families than probably many others, without making the comparison. What was the thinking behind the way that they built it, or the architecture? Was it maximize profit, or what was the thinking behind it? I'm curious to know.
I'm sorry, will you state your question?
It's basically the similar question to what I asked. How did you arrive at the unit breakdown, the allocation? I mean, what Eliezer is saying, it's almost as if you're designing a hotel with lots of individual rooms as opposed to an apartment building for families.
Yeah, I mean, as explained earlier, thank you for your question. I mean, there are many residents who are looking for 1-bedroom and studio apartments, but I mean, there are 30%, as mentioned, that are for family size, 2 bedrooms and 3 bedrooms. Again, we do get this question often, really the need for more family size units. So the mix was focused on catering to all residents within CD12. And it comports with the ELA term sheet. So that's how the unit mix was comprised or created, more so.
Anything else, Eliezer? Okay, then Ebenezer, what do we have in terms of questions in the Q&A?
Well, thank you, Wayne, and thank you, HPD, for the wonderful presentation. We have a few questions, people raising their hands. I'm going to call those one first, and then I'm going to go through the question we have from the public in the Q&A. But I want to make an announcement. People are asking if this presentation will be available for the public, and the answer is yes. Yeah, we are recording this presentation. It's live now in our YouTube channel, and it's gonna be there recorded. If people want to access, you just need to go to our website, and from our website, go to our YouTube channel. If you go to our YouTube channel, you just need to type CB12M NYC, and then you will have access not only to this meeting, but to all the meetings that we have in Community Board 12. And the first question, the first hand that I see it up is from Sally Fisher, board member. Sally, what is your question, please? Sally?
Hello?
Yes, we can hear you. Hello, Sally.
Can you go back to the slide that has the units mix? It's entitled Affordability, the Eliza. Because my first couple questions are regarding that.
Can you see my screen? Is it working? There you go.
Okay, just a point of clarification. Is it 70% of units are going to be permanently affordable or 70 of the units are going to be permanently affordable?
70, 70.
70, so not 70%. So more like a third of the units will be permanently affordable. And what will be the size mix of those 70 units? What will we lose?
James, do you remember what the unit mix will be for the 70 permanent affordable?
So the ones that are required through MIH, I don't know so for the AMI tiers, the permanently affordable units are split between 40 and 60 for I think the first 25% of them, and then the remaining of them will be spread equitably throughout all of the AMI tiers.
Okay, I'm more interested in the size mix. So how many 2 and 3 bedroom apartments will be left permanently affordable? And the fact that it's only 70 seems like a very small number to me. So will we possibly end up with 70 studio and 1 bedrooms?
That's a good question. If we don't have that response, we will definitely get that information back to the community board. And 70 is really a great, I'm really happy that 70 units are permanently affordable. It really responds to many of the concerns and requests that have come from many community boards, particularly during this time when we're in a pandemic. We were in a housing crisis before the pandemic, but certainly we are in one now. And as time moves on, when the moratorium is lifted, there will be increased concern. So at this time, when we can offer the lowest tiers of affordability, respond to the growing crisis of the homeless communities and providing 16% of our units for formerly homeless, and also not only have the lowest tiers that we're offering to communities that are in need, but also to have 70 of those remain permanently affordable. Can we do more? We can always do more, but I'm again really excited about this program mix for the community.
But just to be fair, to follow up on Sally's point, I think there are any number of resolutions that CB12 has passed concerning affordable housing in the past, and to have 40% permanently affordable and 60% where we don't know what's happening, that's probably sort of the reverse of what the community board or community boards, uptown and throughout the city have, requested. So 70 in the abstract is a nice number, but 70 as a percentage of the overall building gives us basically, a 40% affordable, meaning the majority of the building, we don't quite know what its affordability will be. It's not even a 50-50 split.
Wayne and Viandra, this is Ingrid from
Ingrid.
Can I address this? The MIH affordability requirement is MIH. However, as part of the development team and the nonprofit part of this development team, we see 100% of these units remaining affordable, because after the 15-year term with tax credits, where the nonprofit partner steps in, Community League is in this project for the long haul. We are going to be there as the, again, the nonprofit partner, and this is what we do, affordable housing. So we see this as 100% affordable for the long term.
And thank you, Ingrid. And again, as indicated on this chart, these tiers of affordability will really focus on catering to and addressing a lot of the concerns that were mentioned in many communities as addressing the 27% AMI tiers, 37% AMI tiers, the 47% AMI tiers, as well as the 60% AMI tiers. So again, it's not that we don't know what's happening with the remaining 60 or 70%. We'll get those unit mixes to you in terms of the permanent affordable housing. They're permanent affordable regardless. So I think that remains in place, and that is the good news. And we're excited about that.
But thank you very much. Let's continue with the questions. I have a person named Francisco. Francisco, can you identify yourself? What is your last name? Francisco?
Can you guys hear me?
Yes, what is your name? Francisco what?
Lopez.
Francisco Lopez. Yes, please ask your question.
Hi guys, thank you for giving us your time to present this for us. I have really more comments than one question, but my comment is I've listened and heard that other communities where you guys have been building have been complaining about the sizes of these apartments, yet you guys continue to not listen to these communities that are asking you to give us more family-sized units. Inwood, Washington Heights is very family-oriented. So when we see all these studios and 1 bedrooms, it's kind of hard to understand why are we not being listened to. Since you guys are building in our community, we figure we should have some sort of input as to how many family-sized units would be available. That's one. And I don't have the numbers or the stats, but I feel like with studios and 1 bedrooms, those feed gentrification. People come from other states, other cities to come to Wahi and Inwood and fill up our neighborhoods. I just believe that that's kind of feeds into that. And lastly, what is the median income, the number that you guys are using for those permanently affordable housing versus those that are not permanently affordable housing? What is the median income on both? Thank you.
Thank you, Francisco. Anyone can answer from HPD.
So again, the permanent affordable housing will get back to you on that information in terms of the ones that will be, I think, James, you mentioned in 40% AMI and 60% AMI will be those.
That's right.
That will be permanently affordable. So they will be in those 2 income tiers. And again, in reference to your comment, we do hear a lot more requests for family size units, and that's an ongoing negotiation that our agency works on really changing with development teams. So again, we're not saying that that's never responded to. We're saying that we do hear it often as a request and a concern.
Okay, thank you very much for your answer. The next person will be Tanya Bonner. Tanya, go ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. I have 2 questions, but first I just wanted to reiterate what Wayne said in agreement that with we have so many intergenerational extended families in our community, and I do think it's important that we address the imbalance in terms of the number of affordable units that are that have more bedrooms. And I think that's very important. I think in the long term and in the long term, that's what is needed in the community. So I would reiterate that, and hopefully you will take a second look and do some reconfiguration of that. I have 2 questions. First is, will you get input from the community on the programming for the ACT Center to ensure it can serve all of the people in Inwood? Just want to make sure that, you know, that the type of program that's being offered, the mix of the program is being offered, that we are getting that input and that we are recognizing all of the people in the Inwood community, because it is very diverse in this community. And second, I wanted to ask about parking. In terms, I know there's a lot going on in this space, a lot of different things. And I wanted to, ask if you thought about what is the plan for that. You know, as I know there's lots of people, of course, from the community, but a lot of people who might be coming to some of this stuff will be coming from outside of the community, to attend some of these events and things like that. And I think it'd be important to look at that. Broadway is a busy street, and just want to know what your plan is for that. Thank you.
Thank you for the question. I would like to answer the question about the programming at the ACT Center, and the answer is yes. As we get closer, we would love to sit with you and a group from the community to lay out the programs that we have proposed and see if they make sense to you.
Thank you for your answer.
Perhaps you could come to
I have the other question about the parking.
I might be able to answer that. There is no parking requirement for this project. And because it's so close to the subway, we didn't see the neighborhood, which is the library and the residents, having a big demand for cars. That was the strategy that we did, and so we invested in infrastructure for the neighborhood rather than parking.
Yeah, I would rethink that. I would rethink that, because even in our residential communities and other parts, people do drive here. There are a lot of cars. There's a lot of demand for parking in the community. And also because we have the community center that's going to have programming. We have the STEM center that's going to have programming. And so, I think we shouldn't assume that the people that are living in these and the Eliza will not have cars, and that they will all just be, they're all working within Manhattan proper or something. So that's an assumption we shouldn't make. And I just think that maybe we should look at that and just determine, from actual, engagement with the community to find out what the needs would be of that. And I definitely look forward to hearing more about the programming at the ACT Center.
Yes, thank you. Anyone want to answer Tanya's question about parking? Okay, thank you. It's a lot of questions here. I want to give an opportunity to everyone to speak. Everybody want to make a comment and do their own presentation. However, we don't have time for everyone, but I want to make sure that everyone who is in the list at least ask a question.
Ebenezer, if I could suggest, as you are, reviewing the questions, if there are a number of questions that are basically asking the same thing, you might summarize that for the team and have them respond to the general theme, as opposed to responding to the same question 5 times.
Oh, sure. I will filter those one that is written. I am giving now opportunity to the board members has raising their hands with question. My next one is Steve Simon. Steve.
That's okay. I don't have a question.
Okay, thank you, Steve. The next one is going to be Debbie Nabavian. Debbie.
Thank you, Eleazar, and thanks to everybody for this presentation. The housing crisis up here is so horrible, and as everybody on here knows, there really hasn't been anything built up here. And so for somebody that has housing insecurity and doesn't want to leave a neighborhood that they grew up in, et cetera, there has been 0. Or there's been like 5 until the cloth development over the past few weeks. So if you go into Housing Connect, there has not been anything here. So the idea of having over 100 affordable apartments come into the neighborhood is fantastic news. I guess as everybody debates the sort of family size thing, which we were absolutely a community of that skews towards, because the housing stock was bigger apartments, multi-generational families, all this stuff that has been said. I guess I have a different take on it, however, which is that it doesn't matter what the demographic is. It matters what the group who is about to be without a home or needs something more affordable can't find anywhere to live that's remotely affordable. And that's just as much a family with a $60,000 income and 2 kids as it is with a family with 20,000, a group with 20,000. In my work, have seen a lot of Housing Connect applications, a lot. They've almost always been a couple, a single parent with 1 child. I've only in 1 case seen a family. So I think we need to see, but then when I think about what is the demand from our community for affordable housing, and we're all sort of have our own opinion of what that looks like, but you guys have the data, don't you? You have Housing Connect. So for people applying to the lotteries and have a registered account on Housing Connect, our zip codes and what they're applying for and what their household income is. So I'm a little like, do you guys ever link those two? The hard data, which everybody who sets up an account on Housing Connect has entered, and looking at the people who actively enter lotteries, desperate for one of these apartments, whether it's an apartment for somebody, again, with 25,000 of income or 60,000 of income or 80,000. None of those people at any of these levels can find a place to live. It is a horrible situation out there. Do you know what I'm saying? I guess I'm just asking, we've got the data. Do you guys look at the data to see what our people are asking for?
Hi, Debbie. Thank you for your comment. We have a huge marketing team that does analyze all of this data. So they can come back and really make a robust presentation if needed in terms of what they see and what the demand is. But yes.
But I'm saying, do you use that in your decision about the mix of the apartment sizes? I mean, that seems like that's a question that's come up a lot. And I was like, but do you guys use the data for that?
The data in terms of what, we use the data in terms of what AMI levels really should go in terms of the
I see. Yeah. Okay. But yeah, that's a great, I think it might be, I certainly would find it interesting to understand, where CB12 lottery enterers, are they in fact going predominantly for the bigger sizes? Would we be surprised to see plenty of people going for, studios and 1 bedrooms? I mean, data's to me the better place to look. So I think it would be interesting.
But thank you for your question. Let's continue with the people on the list. Cliff Elkin. Cliff.
Hello. There is a lot in this project that I can accept. One thing that is, to me, grossly unacceptable is the height of this proposal. 14 stories redoes Inwood. It is not consistent in any way with the height that we see predominantly around this community. And I would ask you to rethink that, because that will become really something that's so out of context for this community. I would really ask you to look at that, because there's a lot in this project that is good, but 14 stories in Inwood, and I hate to think that you're trying to redesign Inwood. As the architect said earlier, I can't really comment on this, but I see this as a gateway project, or I know it's a gateway project to more development in Inwood. Do you see this as a gateway project, this 14-story proposal that you have here? Because if it does, there's a larger agenda here, and that's deeply troubling. Thank you for your answer.
Yes, anyone would like to answer to
I
Cliff?
I could touch on this. I mean, I think that is a very good point. And I think it's part of a bigger question, which is the bigger Inwood rezoning. We're a small piece of that. And our project and our team doesn't determine that, that bigger conceptual idea of what is the right size for Inwood. We are working with the tools that we were given, which is the zoning, and determine that, and within that envelope, and then with the program, which was set by the Cloth and Children's Workshop, Children's Village, and the library, and the community center, and the STEM center, and the pre-K. And so within all those various pieces, we don't deal with the big geopolitical issues. We're dealing with the program and the envelope that we're given and trying to make it work in the best way we can. So that's not really an answer, but it's a bit more of the context of how what we are as a group responsible for.
And I would just ask if I can follow up quickly to look at that 14-story height. That is just so out of proportion for what this neighborhood is. So thank you for listening.
Thank you, Cliff. Thank you. Let's continue now. GB, please identify yourself. GB.
Next.
This concludes with the attendees. Now let's move with Ariel Miranda. Ariel.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for being here tonight. I'm actually the chair for Housing Human Services. Looking over the numbers that you made in the presentation, I actually wanted to ask, why is it so disproportionate in the number that's being given towards studios and one bedrooms?
That's been asked.
The demographics of our community. It's actually the inverse of our community. You have roughly about 33% going towards families. Interestingly enough, 31% are households here that are by single people. Does that somehow make sense for the demographic we have in CB12?
Yeah, Ariel, you raise a point that you're raising it for the third time this evening. And I think the development team, but more so HPD, needs to take a look at how you massage that unit distribution, and even the comments that Debbie made. A single parent and one child, depending upon the age of the child, they may be able to use a one bedroom for some time, but as the child grows, that's not going to be sufficient space. So you're saying at some point you need to leave the building or leave the neighborhood. And my fellow community board members will recall one of our former members left the board in tears, not because she did not want to serve, because she could not find an apartment that she could afford for her and her child. So that's a household of only two, but using exactly the example I gave, as her child was getting older, the apartment she had was no longer suitable, and she could not find anything in Washington Heights Inwood that she could afford.
Right. I mean, I completely hear it, but I have not gotten an answer, and I just heard about zoning. I don't know how that could have constructed this.
Yeah, the zoning doesn't dictate the allocation. It's the program that they're using, and whether they're looking to maximize the number of units or to take a look at whether maximizing the number of units needs to be given a second look and to better fit the community demand.
Yeah, it's completely just unfounded, and I don't know why this is still being looked at as an example to how to do things. I mean, the city dealt with the Broadway Triangle dilemma. I think, yeah, I don't think this is appropriate.
Thank you, Mr. Miranda, for your comment. As mentioned, this concern did come up several times tonight, and these are considerations that HPD looks at for each development that's being constructed around the city. I work primarily in Manhattan, and we're aware of concerns for more family size units. And so this building mix really is a mix for family sizes and for individuals or families, single family parent child with a single parent with a child or couples. So the mix really focuses on all of the above. But I do hear your concerns.
But I think what HPD really needs to hear, because the answers are kind of explaining to us why you do what you do, but I think what you really need to hear is what you're doing sort of consistently, you know, without taking any real comments that change it, has to change, because you're continuing to perpetuate a type of development or a unit mix that really doesn't serve a large part of Upper Manhattan well. And we're not saying it needs to be 90%, but I can tell you that my sister, who's 2 years older than I am, so she's definitely an adult, but her son is also pushing 30. That's not a household for a one-bedroom apartment, even though it's only 2 people. And, you know, they were not born with the Rockefellers, so the market rate units are not going to really work for them. So even, you know, a single parent and a child, and given the affordability that Debbie pressed, you know, very, you know, strongly, it may be difficult for an adult child to be able to afford their own apartment anytime soon, and may continue to live with a parent for an extended period of time. So how does a studio or one bedroom work? And that goes back to my comment of, are these smaller units being designed in a way that have in mind how they can be shared? Some of the square footages, and I've worked in affordable housing for nearly 20 years, some of the square footages are kind of minimal and really don't allow for sharing that easily.
Yes. Any comment from HPD?
No,
Okay.
I mean, we do understand what you're saying. And again, you know, this is an opportunity for your voices to be heard in the new administration, where policy changes are taking place now. These design guidelines can be amended possibly through different advocacy venues. So we hear
Okay.
you. Yes.
Thank you very much. It is 7:55. We need to wrap it up by 8. I have a lot of questions on the Q&A section. I'm gonna go through the most important one, and you will answer. I think, you know, if anyone that question will not be answered tonight, can email me at the board office. We can send this email your question to HPD, and they will send it to you. But because of the time, you know, 7:55, we need to wrap it up by 8. I'm gonna go through a few of the Q&A here. And the first question is, did this site go through the ULURP process very quickly, yes or no?
Yeah.
Okay, why can all units remain affordable? I think that has been answered. Can you explain how the proposal is consistent with the contextual design of the neighborhood?
I think that goes back to the bigger question of the zoning. I think somebody touched on the fact that this building is part of a group, a rezoning of this neighborhood. So it's somewhat, it's designed in as much that it can be to its context, but it is also looking forward as well.
Thank you. Another question is, thank you for the presentation. Can you elaborate on the statement that only about 40% of the apartment will be permanent affordable. I think you talk about it, but I don't know if you want to be more specific on this question.
I think, we've talked about that, and Ingrid spoke about that a lot as well. I think, this is something we can respond to in writing.
Okay, thank you. How do I apply for an apartment?
You apply to the apartments through Housing Connect. It's our normal marketing system that allows people to apply through a lottery program. So as it stands today, 50% of the apartments will go to Community Board 12 residents. And again, through a Housing Connect lottery program. That's how you can apply.
Okay, thank you. If you can send me that information via flyer or email so I can distribute to the community so people from the neighborhood can apply on that one.
There's nothing to apply for at this juncture, am I correct?
That's correct.
And when there is something to apply for, HPD regs still require ads in publications?
Yes, absolutely. We can still just send the link regardless, just so you have it.
But I wouldn't want anyone to think that they can apply for any of the units tomorrow.
Right.
I mean, if it's going to take 26 months to build, you haven't broken ground yet.
That's right.
Absolutely.
Thank you for the clarification. Let's continue with the questions. It would be possible to talk a bit more about housing and how limits or rent stabilization for the difference level. Also, the AMI for Inwood was generally 53,000 for a family of 4. Do you seem to be using a higher one? Any answer on that one? Again, otherwise I move to another question is again, where was our outreach for this presentation? And so all this will be not be 2023. What about our community now? The outreach went out, we sent it out several times, but I think, this is now will be the only presentation that we will have on this topic. HPD, you want to say anything about it?
Sure. I mean, one of the main reasons that we definitely wanted to provide updates is because the project is really moving towards closing stages. We have a new library that's also going to have their temporary space relocated. So, this is a great time to provide updates. We haven't been to Community Board 12 in a while. So development partners, as well as the nonprofit partners, we're all happy to provide updates in the future as well.
So, Ebenezer, if I could go back to the question about rent stabilization and AMIs. So all units will be rent stabilized in this in the Eliza, and AMI guidelines. Those are given to us by HUD. So that's what we base our numbers off of.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It's 8:01. We need to wrap it up here. Eliazar Bueno, our chairperson, you want to say anything to wrap it up this meeting?
No, just to say thank you. And I'm hoping that this is
the flyer said this was going on until 8:30.
The time that we have is 8 o'clock. We need to wrap it up here.
Okay, that's not what it said on the flyer.
We need to wrap it up here at 8 o'clock.
Just ask Wayne and the HPD if they want to stay another half an hour. I mean, it's up to them.
We're available as long as.
Well, remember, I'm just moderating this. The timing is not up to me. If we don't have an issue with the account, timing out, then we can go to 8:30.
Yeah, we'll go to 8:30. Thank you, Sally, for bringing that up.
Great, thank you.
So on to the next question. Although before you go on to the next question, I would just want to clarify the response given about the design and contextual. The Inwood Library project was included with the actions related to the Inwood rezoning, but it's not really part of that. And if you physically look at where it is located compared to the focus of new development for the Inwood rezoning, which is along the river, one of the comments that the community board made in its very detailed resolution was that the Inwood Library project should have been handled separately. But so its design is not really driven by anything that would happen over by the Harlem River.
Any comment, any answer on this one?
Ebenezer, that was just a clarification. Back to you for more questions.
Okay, thank you. Another question is this presentation is being recorded by the Zoom, will be recording and be publicized. Yes, like I said before, it's gonna be on the YouTube channel for Community Board 12. Our address is CB12M NYC. You can go to the YouTube channel and you will see the entire presentation. Let's continue. Can you post the floor plan? I think it was done already. Can you, how are the permanent affordable discussed among the units? Yes. How are the permanent affordable units discussed or distributed among the unit sites? I think we talked about that already. Maybe Navami, I am curious about if HPD looked at the Housing Connect data. I think that we talked about that already.
Just to go back to the previous question, I think that's something I wrote down in my notes that that I can get back to the board with more information on about the types of units in that will remain permanently affordable.
Okay, thank you. Wayne said, thank you for presenting the apartment size. Francisco, so the community needs one thing and this is giving us another. Okay, you comment already about it. How did this now become 14th floor? You talk about that one already. I am concerned that 4-person family will try to fit into 1-person unit. It was discussed already several times. We asked and you answered about it. So let me go back to the attendees question. I see more people have raised their hands. And let me go to Queen Sack from Senator Jackson's office. Queen Sack.
Hi, everybody. I have actually one real question. Can you provide the community with the floor plan and the location of the units based on AMI and how long they'll stay permanently affordable by floor, and make sure that those units that will be permanently affordable are not going to be all clustered together? That's it. We don't expect an answer right now, but if you guys can provide an answer in writing to the community board in our office, that would be great.
Sure, no problem at all.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much. Let's go now to Jay Wolf. Jay Wolf.
Yeah. So the trucks containing construction material, rebar, cement, all that, what route will they take to come to and from the construction site?
Any answer on this one?
Does anyone from the development team want to respond to that?
I mean, I can respond. This is Sheldon Stein. We work carefully with a contractor. We've spent a lot of time with these schools in terms of negotiating the exact access and hours for the construction, as well as dust mitigation, which is a big concern for the community as well as the schools. So we don't have an exact path for the trucks today. And, there's going to be many kinds of material coming over the course of the project. And obviously, they'll all take slightly different routes. But I think with input from the community, we certainly can try to bias or direct them, to mitigate the amount of interruption it causes.
So I don't know if will everybody listen. I was not able to listen Sheldon Stein response to all the way to the end. I don't know if it's my internet or.
No, I heard it all.
Yeah, we heard. We heard.
Okay, so let's move on. Let's continue with Trish Anderton.
Hi, thanks. I'll be quick. First, I don't understand why Spanish translation isn't being offered for this meeting in a very heavily Spanish-speaking neighborhood. And secondly, Councilmember Rodriguez promised that we would get a full interim library with all the services that the library had before the pandemic. So can you explain why we're getting an interim library that is not going to be able to have all that programming?
Yeah, I'd be happy to address that. Thank you for the question. I mean, the short answer is just that the times have unfortunately changed. The situation now is much different than it was at that time. Right now, there are no temp sites open at all in the system. So we really push to keep our word on this front. Funding has changed, resources have changed. And so that's the honest answer right now. But as I mentioned earlier, we are looking forward to being able to increase the amount of services that are available at this branch as the situation gets safer. And before the pandemic, we had spoken with community organizations like the Rain Center, the Inwood Academy Charter School, Dykeman Cornerstone, a lot of different organizations that were ready to host programs for us. So we look forward to reconnecting with those organizations once the situation improves and providing those programs and services.
Thank you very much for your answer. Let's continue. Another question, Kyra Harris. Kyra Harris.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, a little lower, but yes, we can hear you.
Okay, I apologize. I'll speak up. So I just I have questions in the Q&A. I don't know if you can see them, so I was like, let me just come on and ask them. Somebody had already addressed the parking. A few questions. Is the blueprint set in stone?
Is the blueprint set in stone?
Can you go back and change stuff, or is it already set in stone?
So they're asking, hi, Ms. Harris, you're asking, has the building been fully designed? Can it be changed? Can the design be changed?
Exactly.
As far as I know, the building is designed as it's going to be built. We're in actually construction closing stages.
Okay. Thank you for addressing that. And then my other question was regarding the programming. It sounds like the programs that you named are, I guess, under the DOE. Do all the programs and all the partners have to be contracted with the DOE in order to bring programming to the site? Or is it, that's one question. And then are most of the programs, are most of the partners going to reflect what the residents of the neighborhood look like?
I will answer that. The ACT Center will have programs that are supported by DOE, by DYCD, and also by private philanthropy. And the question about representation, the answer is absolutely yes.
Thank you.
If I could piggyback on Ms. Harris's first question, when we opened the presentation, it was noted that you were coming back to us for an update. to get our input. So the logical question is, to what extent does the input provided have the ability to impact anything? So we've talked, for example, about, the unit mix, and we've talked about certain, exterior design. Are you saying that, forgetting what's happening in a next administration, because we are talking about today, are you saying that what we see is what we get? Or are we saying that, while the project is substantially designed, there are opportunities to revisit, something as basic as color, or something as significant as what's the final mix of units?
That's a great question. There are aspects of the project where we can collaborate with the community, as our partners mentioned, as the programming is being designed for the spaces. There are opportunities to really collaborate with the community for any additional programming or other ideas that would specifically really cater to the demands of Community Board 12. However, there are other aspects that, we're in construction closing stages that cannot be changed. So we're taking ideas and solicitation of your feedback to really go and back to our department and talk with our development partners to see if there's any opportunity for amendments in all the areas or just some of the areas.
Right. Well, I would say that, Community Board 12 always works to operate in good faith with the city or anyone who comes before us. So the extent to which every point that is raised this evening was raised in 2018 and 2019, the extent to which that was heard and ignored doesn't speak well for the working in good faith being reciprocal. So I would hope that reasonable comments, because as I said, I've worked in affordable housing for a couple decades, and sometimes the comments are just not reasonable, but I would hope that reasonable comments are taken seriously, and this is not a sort of a show to say that there was a presentation made to the community.
I agree with what you're saying, and certainly reasonable comments or all comments are taken seriously. So I think there are many wonderful aspects of this project that are responsive to many concerns that the community has raised.
And we said that in 2019.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Let's continue from the chat, from the Q&A. GB said a question: what sort of tax abatement is the side project receiving?
Does anyone from the development team want to respond to that one? Sheldon or Ellen?
Okay, if you're not ready with the answer for the tax abatement question, you can send it to me. I can send it out.
Back to back, dimmi.
Aren't the tax abatements built into the ELA program?
Dimmi.
Yeah, I mean, this is Sheldon speaking. I mean,
No, sto ascoltando, non sono in video, dimmi.
I think our team should respond to you tomorrow, but I think just broad brush, this is it's largely a not-for-profit development, so that all the units are steeply affordable. It's a 420C project. So I think, why don't we get you a full answer tomorrow?
Okay, that sounds good. Let's move on to another question from Jean Berlin. Please tell me more about the ventilation system in the new and the temporary libraries. How are they adapted to dealing with the COVID pandemic?
I might
Anyone?
I might
Any
let
more questions?
Andrew. I can talk generally, but each piece of each different part of the project has its own independent mechanical ventilation system. All the apartments, of course, have optical windows in every single room. But the library in itself has its own fresh air supply to its own separate mechanical system. It's all brand new, state-of-the-art with filters and everything else that comes as standard. I can't talk to the temporary library, but I can say that the new building is incredibly well thought about. None of the different users, the community use, the school and the library and the residential, none of them share any ventilation system. So the library is completely independent from the school, it's completely independent from the pre-K, from the residential and so on and so forth. So I don't know if that helps with the temporary library. I'm not sure if anyone wants to start.
I can jump in on that very quickly. So, you know, ahead of reopening period, a big part of everything was checking HVAC systems, air circulation, all of that. You know, if a branch doesn't have good air circulation to begin with, it's not opening. That's part of the prerequisites. And then in the event we do decide a branch could be a good candidate for opening, everything is dependent upon reviews with safety experts across the system, environmental experts. Air circulation is a huge part of that, and the temp site was no exception.
Right. So for the new building, going back to Jim's question, I know many new buildings and retrofits are focusing on increasing the air changes, increasing the level of filtration, so to HEPA or just below that, and in some cases installing UV lighting in the ductwork. How is the HVA system being designed so that it is, you know, cognizant of everything that is being done to address COVID?
I mean, the short answer is we designed it before COVID, and
right, but you're building it in the age of COVID.
Right, I understand. And if it turns out that COVID, you know, is still an ongoing concern when we're ready to open, we will retrofit it to add UV and HEPA 8 filters and other measures, you know, for the library and public area spaces. But obviously nobody knows what the future is going to be. And those type of features are relatively simple add-ons, and we would address that as appropriate at that time.
Since you haven't broken ground yet, would it make sense to include as part of the base design, you know, increased level of filtration so that it's there?
Yeah, I mean, we'll certainly talk to the library about it. Ultimately, it's their call because it's an operational cost. You know, the capital cost of adding that is not material. So we're happy to do it if the team decides that's appropriate.
Okay, thank you. One more question on the chat. Could Mr. Stein provide Community Board 12 with a copy of the mitigation plan for noise, dust, hours, etc. during the construction? I believe we made various recommendations regarding these issues previously. This is from Steve.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, we are committed to prepare and present to DOB a noise mitigation and dust mitigation plan, and we'll certainly share that with the community. You know, once we finalize with the contractor and you know, have all the details sorted out.
Okay, let's continue. Let's see. Sally, you said that you have a few more questions. Sally, can you ask your questions?
I'm sorry. Could I just cut in for a second, Mr. Stein? Would it be possible for you to share that plan with us before it's finalized, so it's not a fait accompli in case we have some additional comments?
Sheldon, I think you were muted.
Yes, I'm sorry. Yes, of course.
All right, thank you.
And just for reference, Steve Simon is chair of our Health and Environment Committee.
Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
I did put a number of the questions regarding the residential part in the Q&A, including community preference to the extent that it survives, getting information on the square footage of the extra units. And I assume that homeless, that reduces the community preference percentage. The main questions that I have, though, have to do with the ACT Center. I guess what the community was sort of promised was a visual and performing arts space. And what it looks like is that we've got, I don't know what the capacity of the theater is. Maybe you could give me that information, but what we got is very limited. You know, I don't know if we could do performance for larger crowd or things like what the Inwood Artworks does in their film festival, but I would like to get more information on the ACT Center. We do have a Parks and Cultural Affairs meeting coming up the second week of the second Tuesday, I think, of next month. And I wonder if maybe, since that wasn't really gone over in detail, perhaps the people who are involved in the non-library, non-housing part of it could maybe come and make a presentation about the ACT Center.
Sally, this is Jeremy Kahumban from Children's Village. I'm happy to join Claude and meet with you and explain the space. We try to maximize the performance space as best able. It may not be as large as some other spaces that you've seen, but it has a lot of natural light, and we think it's going to serve the community well, but happy to discuss further.
Okay, well, our Parks and Cultural Affairs Committee meets the second Tuesday of every month. So if y'all could put on your calendars to join us at that meeting, that would probably be most helpful.
I think the non-residential part of the project would also be of interest to our Youth and Education Committee.
Yes. It seems like the sooner we could do that, the better, since whatever's not set in stone sounds like it will be set in stone really quickly.
Well, you know, beyond being set in stone, there are committees that have, you know, interests that overlap with this mixed use project. Clearly, Housing and Human Services is interested in the residential portion of it. But as Sally pointed out, you know, the Parks and Culture has an interest in it, and Youth and Education. So they need to understand what's coming so that they are informed, and also, yes, so that they can, if there is, you know, outreach to partners to help program it, they can help point the team in the direction of some of the partners who may be able to help with that.
Right. And I also just want to reiterate what Trish said. I mean, none of the outreach was done in Spanish, and the fact that this presentation was not translated. I was just on another Zoom where they managed to have translation.
Yeah, Sally, I guess we need to discuss that internal to the board.
Right. Okay, it can be done.
Yes, we know that.
Okay, thank you. Let me, another question from anonymous attendee. Thank you for the updates. We do appreciate them. We are just very concerned about some of these procedures. Not clear about the procedure, but you know, we have been discussing this matter for a while at the Community Board 12. It's not just happened, and just we want to have this meeting for the update. Let me see any other person. Faye Florimon is with us. Faye, do you have a question? You have your hand raised. Faye, go ahead. Faye.
And Faye is chair of our Youth and Education Committee. If she's going to speak to us, that is.
Faye?
Faye, you're muted.
Yes. Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, we can.
Thank you, Wayne, and thank you all the organizers, you know, for facilitating this important meeting. My question is, well, I have a lot of questions, but I guess I'm going to be kind and just ask only one, which is very important to me. In regard to the service delivered, and access into the library compared to the way in which you used to conduct business in the old library? What is going to be new on the new library? Is there is something that has changed, which I think, yeah, definitely will be. If there will be, for example, many other program for your students, if they're gonna have a space in which your student can hopefully an area where they can come and do their homework and so forth.
The new library is going to have a wide range of spaces for a wide range of activities. So there will be community room, classrooms, co-working rooms, which can be used for individuals and small groups to work on homework or projects, a children's room, team room, adult areas, and storytelling room for the children. So there's a wide range of space that can be flexibly used for a wide range of purposes.
And along with that, I also would like to know if when you're ready to announce the opening of this, if this is something that you planning on inviting the Untitled school district. I assume yes, the community board, of course, is going to be invited. But I'm wondering if there is any idea about how to approach the Untitled school district.
I'm sorry, Faye, would you mind restating that last question again? I could tell it had something to do with the school district, I think.
Yes, I wondered if at the time of opening, if you intend being Untitled district, like the superintendent office, so he can pass on that information to the rest of the people, like the principal inform also the students on the office, you know, library. Understand that I assume
You're echoing.
You're echoing. I don't know.
Amir, I can speak to that as well. I think we're all echoing. Somebody, if other people can put themselves on mute, because I think there's some sort of echo. So this is Jennifer Maldonado at the GOE. We would be working closely hand in glove with the library on any reopening, and we would obviously encourage the library to invite the school, and the school and the library have a very good relationship. So I don't think that there would be any issue, and it would be a foregone conclusion that there would be some sort of opportunity for the school to embrace the new library.
But in addition to inform them, I would like to see if it's possible, not asking too much, if you can put in writing any new things or features that you're going to be, you know, that going to be offering, that would be very helpful. Because there might be people that may not be able necessarily to join you.
Sure.
You know.
Yeah, we can definitely do that, Faye.
That would be very helpful.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, thank you very much. 8:30, we're gonna wrap it up here. On behalf of Community Board 12, I want to say thank you to everyone. But before we go, I just want to announce to everyone that Community Board 12 has been working in the Inwood rezoning and the Inwood library reconstruction and affordable housing for a while. There was a resolution that we passed on March 20 to 2018, and this resolution is available in our webpage. If anyone want to review what Community Board 12 have recommended on this resolution, please go to our website and retrieve this resolution on the Inwood rezoning uniform land use review procedure. It was passed on March 20th and is under the Executive Committee resolution in 2018. Thank you very much. If this meeting has been recorded and is available for everyone on YouTube channel, in CB12 YouTube channel. If you want to go to our YouTube channel, just go to CB 12M NYC. So thank you, Wayne, for handle this meeting. Thank you, everyone from the HPD participating tonight. I know this is the first of many meetings that we're going to have with you. Thank you, our chairperson, Eleazar Bueno, for coordinating this. Thank you very much. God bless you all. I hope to see you soon in one next meeting. Thank you.
Take care, all.
Thank you. Good night.
Thank you so much.
Thank you again.